The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with quiet tension. An assembly of towering, elegant, and diverse alien figures filled the room, their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, focused on the central platform where a hologram of the galactic map hovered. The counselors, representing species from the farthest reaches of the galaxy, had gathered to discuss a long-standing issue that had plagued them for centuries. The invisible species. A representative from the Osari, a thin, crystalline-skinned alien, floated forward. We are still unable to track the movements of the species that we have come to know only by their disturbances in our star systems. Entire fleets vanish. Planets destabilize. We cannot counter what we cannot see. Another voice chimed in, this one deeper and rumbling, coming from a Jarnak, a reptilian species known for their military prowess. They've been a threat for too long. If we don't find a way to detect them, they could undermine the very structure of the Galactic Council. Whispers of agreement rippled through the chamber. The frustration was palpable. For as advanced as the galactic community had become, this one mystery eluded them, and their inability to track the invisible species posed a potential threat to their security. At the far end of the room, a human sat silently, observing the discussion. Humanity, the newest members of the Council, had not yet earned the full respect of the older, more established species. Primitive, some had called them. Short-lived, lacking in the centuries of history that the others shared. And yet they had gained their seat through sheer tenacity, having proven themselves valuable through a series of unexpected military and diplomatic victories. The counselors largely ignored the human presence, until now. The human representative, a woman named Captain Iris Taylor, stood. Her movement, although subtle, immediately caught the attention of the room, more out of curiosity than respect. You all seem to be struggling with these so-called invisible species, she began, her voice calm but confident. But you haven't considered that perhaps they aren't as invisible as you think. The statement drew confused glances. The Osari representative raised an eyebrow-like ridge, its crystalline skin shimmering with irritation. What do you mean, human? Taylor smiled slightly. We've been aware of the invisible species for some time. In fact, we've been in communication with them. The room fell silent. The idea that humans, the species most considered to be at the lower end of galactic sophistication, had succeeded where others had failed was met with disbelief. Several council members exchanged incredulous looks, and a few openly laughed. The Jarnak representative leaned forward, his scaled body crackling with tension. Impossible, he growled. Your species lacks the technology. We've tried every method, scans, psychic readings, biotechnological enhancements. None of them can even detect a trace of these beings. Taylor's expression didn't change. We don't use technology. We just see them. More laughter, but this time a nervous undercurrent accompanied it. Could it be true? Was there something unique about humans that allowed them to perceive what others couldn't? One of the more curious council members, a species with shimmering tentacles and soft, golden eyes, floated closer. Explain, they said, their voice a soft hum that echoed through the chamber. How can your kind see what is undetectable? Taylor shrugged. We're not entirely sure. There are theories that it's related to how our brains process sensory input, an evolutionary quirk, maybe. But the fact remains, humans can see the invisible species. They communicate with us. The room was silent again, this time the disbelief fading into something more complex, concern, curiosity, perhaps even fear. The idea that humanity could do something no other species could threaten the established order. And yet, if what Taylor said was true, it could mean a shift in the balance of galactic power. The Osari representative finally spoke again, their voice now more measured, almost cautious. If what you say is true, then you understand the implications of this. If your species can indeed see and communicate with these beings, it would change everything. Taylor nodded. I do understand. And that's why we're willing to prove it. Set up a demonstration. Bring us to a location where you believe these invisible species might be. We'll show you. A ripple of murmurs spread through the council chamber. The skeptical Jarnak crossed his arms, his tail flicking impatiently. And if you fail? Taylor didn't flinch. Then humanity will lose its seat on the council. But if we succeed. She let the sentence hang in the air, the implications clear. If humans succeeded, their position in the galactic order would be cemented, and the council would have to reconsider their view of the species they had once thought inferior. The counselors exchanged glances, the weight of the decision settling on them. The stakes were enormous. If humanity could do what they claimed, it would mean they had access to knowledge, and possibly power, that no other species had. But if they were lying, it would be a humiliation they might never recover from. Finally, the Osari representative spoke. Very well. We will conduct the experiment. If you can prove that you can see these invisible species, humanity's role in the galaxy will be reconsidered. Taylor nodded. We'll be ready. As the council adjourned, the air in the chamber was thick with tension. For the first time in centuries, there was hope that the invisible species might no longer be a mystery. But with that hope came fear that humanity, a species the council had once dismissed, might hold the key to the galaxy's future. The stakes were clear. If humanity could prove their claim, it would not only elevate their standing but also shift the balance of power in the galaxy forever. And as Captain Taylor left the chamber, she couldn't help but smile at the thought. The galaxy was about to learn just how special humanity really was. The council gathered in a desolate sector of space, a location selected for its isolation and security. It was nothing more than an expanse of stars and empty void, yet the tension in the atmosphere was thick. Aboard the observation vessel, alien dignitaries stood with their eyes locked on the center of the demonstration area, waiting. The air buzzed with anticipation as humans prepared to prove their astonishing claim. A Jarnak general stood to the side, his imposing figure rigid with skepticism. He had made his opinion clear earlier: this was a waste of time, an impossible task for such a primitive species. His military experience told him to trust in tech, in hard data, not in human superstition. Still, he couldn't dismiss the potential consequences if the humans were right. A shimmering field flickered into place, invisible to most eyes, but according to the human delegation, it was the boundary separating their reality from that of the unseen beings. The Jarnak, along with others, waited, relying on their advanced sensors, scanning technology, and biodetection units, yet all they saw was empty space. Minutes passed in unsettling silence, and the alien counselors began to stir. The quiet deepened as the humans, completely unbothered, moved toward what appeared to be nothing. Their posture relaxed, eyes focused on some unseen presence. One of the human representatives, Captain Iris Taylor, began describing what she saw. "They're here," she said, her voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. "Massive, about 20 feet tall, their forms constantly shifting, blending into the space around them. Bioluminescent streaks run down their arms and torsos, lighting up in response to our presence. They're observing us." The council was silent, their disbelief palpable. Their scanners showed nothing. The alien dignitaries, relying on the most advanced technological sensors in the galaxy, couldn't pick up even a trace. It was maddening. They exchanged uneasy glances, none of them understanding how this could be possible. Yet, the human representative continued to speak with confidence, as if the invisible beings were standing right there. The eerie stillness in the room grew as Taylor took a step closer to the spot. She raised a hand in greeting, speaking calmly to what appeared to be empty air. "We know you've been watching for a long time. We're ready to listen." To the rest of the council, the humans appeared to be talking to phantoms. Taylor described their movements, the subtle glow of their patterns shifting and flickering, creating elaborate displays. Her words painted a picture that the other species couldn't comprehend. To them, it was unnerving, this idea that humans possessed an ability they lacked. The Jarnak general finally spoke, unable to hide his frustration. "This is a game. A trick. You're pretending to see what's not there." Taylor ignored him, focusing instead on the creatures before her. As she continued the conversation, her tone was not one of a commander issuing orders, but more that of a diplomat carefully brokering a peace. It was clear that the humans weren't just seeing the invisible species, they understood them on some level. Their rapport was almost natural. The invisible species, through Taylor's translation, revealed what many had feared. They had been watching galactic politics for centuries, waiting. Not for conquest, but for a species capable of perceiving them, capable of real communication. Humanity was that species, their perception far more nuanced than the technologically dependent methods of the older races. The room shifted with unease. Some counselors whispered among themselves, considering the implications of these revelations. The invisible species had remained hidden, untouchable, for eons. If they had chosen to reveal themselves to humanity, it could signify a major power shift. What did the invisible species want? And why choose humans of all races? Taylor listened as one of the invisible beings responded. "They've been here longer than any of us," she said. "They see our galaxy, our wars, our alliances. They've watched us from the fringes, but they've stayed out because they didn't trust us. Until now." That final sentence sent ripples of discomfort through the council. The Jarnak general scowled, his jaw tight. "So they trust you?" His words dripped with disbelief. "Why? What makes you different?" Taylor's answer was simple, yet powerful. "We don't just rely on technology. We listen. We adapt. We've always had to. The galaxy has spent centuries ignoring us, thinking we're weak. But we've survived, we've grown, and we're here now. That's what makes us different." The tension in the room was almost unbearable. Suddenly, a shimmering, barely visible form flickered for just a second, like a glitch in reality. It was quick, but undeniable, a momentary manifestation of one of the invisible beings. A collective gasp echoed from the council as they realized, for the first time, there was something there, beyond what their eyes could perceive. It was real. The Jarnak general's face shifted from disbelief to something more dangerous, fear, mixed with grudging respect. He stepped back, his rigid posture faltering slightly. For a brief moment, the entire council stood in stunned silence, processing the ramifications. This species was not a myth, nor a threat to be dismissed lightly. And humanity, this once overlooked race, had somehow bridged the gap. The other council members reacted in various ways. Some were deeply shaken, unnerved by the humans' ability to communicate with such an enigmatic race. A few of the more forward-thinking members looked at humanity with newfound respect. If humans could build alliances with these invisible beings, the entire galaxy might shift around them. But the Jarnak general remained unconvinced. "You've proven nothing more than a fluke of biology. We need more proof," he demanded, his voice low, threatening. Taylor's gaze hardened. "We've already given you proof. You just can't see it yet." Another flicker, a longer one this time. The form of the being was clearer, more distinct. Several council members recoiled, their nerves frayed by the presence of something they couldn't fully understand. The balance of power had begun to tilt, and for the first time, the councilors realized they weren't in control of the situation. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of the game. The invisible species, for the first time, communicated openly with the council through the human representative. Their voices, though imperceptible to most, resonated through Captain Taylor, translating their message. These beings were far older than anyone had imagined, their existence spanning eons, long before the rise of the current galactic powers. They had not interfered in galactic politics or wars, choosing instead to watch from their hidden vantage points. But now, they revealed their purpose. "We have always sought a species capable of perceiving beyond the physical," Taylor translated, her voice carrying the weight of their words. "For millennia, we've tested and observed, waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves. Humanity, though young and fragile in comparison to others, possesses a rare combination of traits, adaptability, empathy, and a perceptual evolution that surpasses even the most advanced technologies." This revelation sent a wave of disbelief through the council chamber. The invisible species were not just passive observers, they had been actively seeking a partner in the galaxy, waiting for a species they deemed ready. And humanity, the least expected, had met their criteria. It was a humbling truth for many in the room, particularly those who had looked down on Earth's people. The galaxy had always seen humanity as primitive, but this perception had just been shattered. Taylor continued, "They believe that humanity's ability to see and understand them makes us uniquely suited for a higher level of cooperation, one that transcends the alliances and rivalries of the Council. They see us as protectors of knowledge, a bridge between their ancient wisdom and the rest of the galaxy." The room fell into a stunned silence. This wasn't just about visibility anymore. This was about responsibility, about holding a key position in the future of the galaxy's development. For the first time, humanity was being placed in a role no other species had fulfilled, one that extended beyond their seat at the Council. They were no longer the underdogs. They had been chosen for something far greater. As the invisible species' intentions became clear, the power dynamics within the Council shifted rapidly. The more advanced, long-established species, who had always considered themselves the leaders of the galaxy, now faced a new reality. Their extensive technology, centuries of history, and military might no longer gave them the strategic advantage they once held. The invisible species, with their vast knowledge and abilities, had allied themselves with humans, a species they had largely ignored until now. The Jarnak general, visibly shaken for the first time, broke his silence. His voice, once filled with scorn, was now laced with unease. "So, the humans are to be our mediators now? Are we to take orders from a species who only just joined the Council?" His arrogance had been pierced, though his pride still resisted. Taylor met his gaze steadily. "We're not here to command anyone. We're here to work together, to share the knowledge that the invisible species offer. But yes, this changes things. We've earned their trust, and that trust comes with responsibilities." Murmurs spread through the room as other council members began to grasp the full scope of what had just happened. Some whispered of alliances with humanity, eager to benefit from this new connection to the invisible species. Others were less certain, fearing what this meant for their own positions of power. It was a moment of reckoning, one that had caught them all off guard. One of the more diplomatic species, a soft-spoken envoy from the aquatic Porrick, addressed the room. "Perhaps this is the shift we need. The Council has long stagnated, relying too much on our existing hierarchies. Maybe humanity's rise, and their connection to these beings, offers us a chance to rethink how we move forward." The Jarnak general grumbled but said nothing further. The balance of power had undeniably shifted, and there was little more he could argue. The Council had been forced to see humanity in a new light, not as a weak, underdeveloped species, but as a pivotal player in galactic affairs. As the Council meeting drew to a close, Captain Taylor exchanged a few final words with the invisible beings. They communicated something only she could hear, their forms shimmering faintly as they prepared to leave. Taylor nodded, absorbing their final message, understanding that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed today, but the future was far from certain. Walking away from the chamber, Taylor carried a quiet sense of accomplishment. Humanity had proven itself, not just to the Council, but to the entire galaxy. They had secured an unprecedented alliance with the invisible species, an alliance that came with both power and responsibility. For Earth, this meant that their status among the stars had drastically elevated. They were no longer on the sidelines, no longer considered the youngest and weakest. They were now at the center of something much larger. But with that newfound power came uncertainty. The invisible species had chosen humanity for reasons even Taylor didn't fully comprehend yet. What did they expect in return? What dangers or conflicts might arise from this newfound connection? The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain: humanity's role in the galaxy had been redefined. As she boarded the human ship to return home, Taylor couldn't help but reflect on the enormity of the situation. Earth had always been a small, fragile planet in the grand scheme of things. But now, they were protectors of knowledge, mediators of ancient wisdom. And with that came the weight of expectation, from the Council, from the invisible species, and from humanity itself. The invisible species, before fading entirely from view, gave a final acknowledgement to Taylor, a subtle nod of recognition. It was a gesture that spoke volumes, a silent affirmation of humanity's place beside them, as equals, perhaps even as guardians of a new galactic order. Taylor took a deep breath, staring out into the vastness of space. The galaxy, with all its mysteries, challenges, and opportunities, lay before them. Humanity had risen. Now, they had to prove they could hold their place among the stars.